Right now, your future self is screaming at you. Not because something terrible is coming, but because there is something sitting inside your life right now that you keep treating like it is ordinary, when it is actually the beginning of a completely different path. Because from where they are standing, they can see the exact moment where everything started to shift. They can see the important thing you almost ignored. And you are sitting on it right now. You are walking around your life thinking it is just another normal season, another confusing chapter, another strange feeling that will pass. But your future self knows better, because the thing that changes everything may already be in front of you. And the only danger is that you keep calling it nothing. Your future self needs you to understand something clearly. Nobody is coming to carry your life forward for you. People may love you, support you, or stand beside you, but there is a part of your path that will not move until you become directly involved in it. This is where many people lose years. They wait for someone to choose them, understand them, change, apologize, return, or finally become who they hoped they would be. And while they wait, their own life sits untouched. Sometimes this looks like patience, sometimes it looks like loyalty, sometimes it even looks like letting life unfold. But there is a difference between trusting life and abandoning your responsibility inside it. Your future self is not asking you to force everything. It is asking you to stop placing your power in hands that were never meant to carry it. Because every time you say, "I will move," when they change, you make them the author of your next chapter. And one day, you realize the person you were waiting for was never the missing piece. Your involvement was. Your future self already forgave the person you keep replaying in your mind. Not because they deserved it, not because what happened was okay, not because your future self became too spiritual to feel pain. They forgave them because life became too full to keep making space for someone who already took enough. That is what nobody tells you about forgiveness. Sometimes it is not something you force. Sometimes it happens because you finally become unavailable for the same pain. You move so far from the version of you that was hurt that the anger starts feeling like an old room you no longer live in. And if you are still angry right now, that does not make you weak. It means part of you still remembers what it cost, but your future self is not sitting around thinking about who hurt them every day. Your future self is busy becoming, busy laughing again, busy building a life where the old resentment has nowhere to sit. Sometimes you do not forgive because you are stronger. You forgive because your life finally becomes bigger than the wound. Your future self is not asking you to pretend you are over it. It is showing you that one day what happened behind you will stop feeling like home. You are not as lost as you think you are. You may just be standing too close to your own gift to recognize it. Sometimes the thing that changes your life does not arrive dramatically. It does not come through some perfect sign, perfect person, or perfect opportunity. Sometimes it has been sitting quietly in your life for years, disguised as something you keep dismissing. That strange interest you always return to. That thing people ask you for without you noticing. That skill you think is normal because it comes naturally. That idea that keeps coming back no matter how many times you ignore it. Your future self sees all of that as buried gold, but you keep calling it random. You keep saying, that is nothing. You keep saying, everyone can do that. And that is how people miss what was placed directly in their hands. Your gift may feel ordinary to you because you have been carrying it for too long. Your future self does not live where your imagination keeps placing them. You have a picture in your mind. The city, the room, the people, the way life is supposed to look when everything finally makes sense. And maybe without realizing it, you have started rejecting anything that does not match that picture. But your future self already knows something you do not. The right life did not arrive dressed the way you expected. It may not have been the place you thought you would move to. It may not have been the crowd you thought would recognize you. It may not have been the path that looked impressive from the outside. In fact, the place that finally gave you peace might be the same place your current self would have dismissed as too small, too quiet, too strange, or too different from the dream. That is how people miss their own direction. They ask life to guide them, then argue with the form it arrives in. The future you are praying for may offend the fantasy you built about it. Your future self had to let the image break. The perfect version, the aesthetic version, the version that needed to make sense to everyone watching. And once that image broke, the real path finally had space to appear. There is a kind of emptiness that does not mean you are failing. It can appear when you finally get close to the life you thought you wanted. The goal starts working, people start noticing. Things start looking better from the outside, and yet somewhere deep inside, something still feels untouched. Not sad, not ungrateful, just hollow. That hollow feeling scares people because they think it means something is wrong with them. But your future self knows better. That hunger was not a curse. It was the first honest signal. Because sometimes life lets you taste everything you were told to want just so you can realize it was never enough. The approval, the image, the achievement, the perfect version of yourself that was supposed to finally make you feel complete. Your ego wanted it. Your wounds wanted it. The world rewarded it. But your soul could not live there forever. The hunger that cannot be fed by applause is the hunger that leads you back to yourself. Your future self remembers that hollow season clearly, not as the moment life ended, but as the moment the fake dream started falling apart. And underneath it, something real was waiting, something private, something raw, something that did not need to impress anyone to feel alive. The thing that derailed you was not a detour from your path, it was the path. And that is hard to accept when you're still standing inside the wreckage, because when something falls apart, the first thing your mind wants to do is call it a mistake. You think this ruined everything, this set me back, this took something from me. This was not supposed to happen, but your future self sees it differently. Your future self can look back and trace entire blessings back to the exact thing you once begged life to undo. The person you became, the strength you found, the place you ended up, the door that opened, the truth that finally became impossible to ignore. All of it started at the same point you once called the worst moment of your life. And this is not some empty phrase like everything happens for a reason. This is more specific than that. This is life moving with a strange kind of architecture. One thing breaks, and because it breaks, you stop walking toward the wrong thing. One person leaves, and because they leave, you finally stop building your identity around being chosen by them. One door closes, and because it closes, you are forced into a hallway you would have never entered on your own. That is why your future self is not looking back confused. Your future self can see the line. They can see how the loss led to the decision, how the decision led to the new environment, how the new environment led to the right people, how the right people led to the opportunity, how the opportunity led to the life that now feels more honest than anything you were trying to hold together before. The door you needed could only be reached through the wreckage of the door you lost. Because human beings can tolerate a shocking amount of wrongness when it is familiar. They can stay in the wrong place. They can shrink inside the wrong identity. They can wake up every day feeling slightly less alive and still convince themselves it is normal. That is why sometimes life has to get loud. Not because you are being punished, not because you are cursed, not because the universe enjoys watching you suffer, but because something in your life had become so misaligned that a gentle nudge would not have been enough. The collapse had to be big enough to end the negotiation. It had to be strong enough to make staying impossible. It had to shake the part of you that kept saying, "Maybe I can still make this work," even though something deeper in you already knew it was slowly draining your soul. The catastrophe was not cruel. It was calibrated. It was the exact size it needed to be to move the version of you that was not going to move any other way. And one day, this will stop sounding painful and start sounding sacred, because your future self does not wish it never happened. That is the part that changes everything. The person you are becoming would not trade the thing that broke you because they know it also broke the illusion that was keeping you trapped. They know the pain was not the end of your story. It was the moment the false story finally lost control. And now it's time for today's comment of the day. Validation is the sugar that tastes sweet but keeps you starving. Because validation feels good in the moment. Being noticed, being chosen, being approved of. There's nothing wrong with enjoying that. But if that becomes the thing feeding you, it's never enough. You need more praise, more signs, more confirmation that you're doing okay. And that's exhausting. I like this comment because it doesn't say connection or encouragement are bad. It's just reminding you not to build your whole sense of self on things other people hand out. Because the moment you stop needing constant validation, you start hearing your own voice again. Thank you for sharing this. Your future self stopped trying to win games they never wanted to play. And that may be one of the biggest reasons they became free. Because so many people are exhausted not because their life is impossible, but because they are competing in invisible games they never consciously entered. They are trying to be seen by people they do not even respect, trying to look successful in ways that do not even feel meaningful, trying to prove they are capable, attractive, spiritual, healed, chosen, disciplined, unbothered, ahead, impressive, and impossible to ignore. And the strange part is, nobody officially signed them up for this. They just looked around one day and started running towards someone else's timeline, someone else's definition of success, someone else's idea of what a good life is supposed to look like. And then they wondered why even progress felt empty. That is what your future self had to wake up from. They realized there are scoreboards everywhere, but not every scoreboard deserves your life. Because there is a difference between ambition that comes from truth and ambition that comes from injury. One makes you more alive. The other makes you perform until you forget who you were before the performance began. Your future self did not become free by beating everyone. They became free by stepping away from the board. They stopped measuring their life with tools that were never built for their path. They stopped turning every blessing into a comparison. They stopped needing strangers, old friends, old lovers, or imaginary critics to confirm that their life was valuable. And that is when something powerful happened. Their energy came back. Because when you stop playing games you never wanted to play, you suddenly have strength for the life you actually came here to build. You stop chasing applause and start noticing peace. You stop trying to look chosen and start making choices. You stop trying to prove that you are becoming someone, and you actually become someone. Your real life begins where the unnecessary competition ends, and your future self knows this clearly now. Some people will still be racing, Some people will still be counting, some people will still be comparing, performing, proving, and pretending that the prize at the end will finally make them feel enough. Your future self needs you to understand this clearly. Not all movement is movement. Sometimes you can be busy every single day and still be standing in the exact same place spiritually. You can be organizing, planning, researching, fixing small details, making lists, thinking about the next step, preparing for the next season, and still never actually cross the line that changes your life. And this is where the trap gets dangerous, because being busy makes you feel innocent. It gives you the feeling that you are doing something. It lets you say, "I'm working on it." It lets you look productive without having to face the one decision that would actually move you forward. But your future self can see the difference. They can see when preparation became avoidance. They can see when learning became hiding. They can see when organizing your life became a way to delay entering it. They can see when you kept polishing the same small corner because stepping into the bigger thing felt too exposing. Some people are not stuck because they are lazy, they are stuck because they made preparation look like progress. And that is a hard truth, because it means the problem is not always lack of effort. Sometimes the effort is real, the exhaustion is real, the hours are real, but the direction is missing. You keep maintaining a life you are supposed to be outgrowing. You keep improving the cage instead of walking out of it. You keep adjusting the same routine, the same environment, the same identity, hoping that if you make it neat enough, it will finally feel like freedom. But your future self knows freedom did not come from perfecting the old room. It came from leaving it. There is a moment where you have to stop preparing to become someone and actually allow the old version of you to be interrupted. You have to stop collecting more information when the truth is already clear. You have to stop waiting until everything feels clean, safe, and fully understood. Because the next part of your life may not require another plan. It may require your entrance, and that is what your future self is trying to tell you. You do not need to be reckless. You do not need to force everything, but you do need to be honest about the places where you have been using motion to avoid movement, because activity can keep you occupied, but only courage can carry you across. The most expensive thing you own is not your house, your phone, your clothes, your time, or even your money. It is your unused capacity. It is the part of you that could be doing more, seeing clearer, creating deeper, choosing faster, loving better, speaking honestly, building something real, and stepping into a life that actually matches what you carry inside. And the strange part is, wasted potential does not always look dramatic. It does not always look like someone throwing their life away. Sometimes it looks responsible. Sometimes it looks normal. Sometimes it looks like waiting for a better season. Sometimes it looks like saying, "I'll do it when I'm ready." Sometimes it looks like keeping the best parts of yourself stored away for a future moment that never arrives. That is what your future self remembers. They remember how many ideas you almost started, how many decisions you almost made, how many truths you almost said, how many abilities you kept treating like they were not urgent because you assumed they would always be there waiting. But capacity does not stay innocent forever. When you keep postponing what is inside you, it does not disappear. It becomes pressure. It becomes that strange feeling that your life is not bad, but it is smaller than it should be. Unused potential does not leave you alone. It becomes the quiet discomfort of a life built beneath your own strength. And if you're still here, still listening, I genuinely appreciate you, because maybe some part of you needed this message more than you expected. Maybe not because every word was perfect, but because something in it recognized where you are right now. And I hope you leave this video feeling a little less behind, a little less confused, and a little more aware of how much life is still available to you. Your future self is not some impossible version of you standing far away. It is being built through the next honest choice, the next small act of courage, the next moment where you stop abandoning what you already know. So take this as a sign to look at your life differently, not with fear, with attention, because something in you is still alive, still reaching, still becoming. And that means your story is not finished.